Okay, so questions will only be for the lessons. I won't be going over charts. Um, Today's lesson is going to be on confirmations and confluences. Okay, so last session I went over how to play, well, 2 weeks ago, top-down analysis, right? Start on higher time frames, set your support and resistances, and go from there. Now we add confluences to the top-down analysis. So if we were to take a look at coin, let's start with Sol, for example. Okay, all right, let's start with Scratch. So resistances, we'll go ahead and plot those. Okay, here is the high. Did we clear it? No, we did not. Okay, now we'll plot some SR points. Okay, um, some support down here. Okay, there's obviously more, but I'm just going to take it. I'm not going to put 100 lines on my chart. Now, what we're looking to do is if we're looking to long, and again, for my way of trading, I only set limit orders. Okay, if I do market anything, it's going to be most likely spot, or it's going to be a low time frame scalp. Um, Usually my swing trades will have limit orders days in advance, or if you watch my YouTube videos, I go over the scenarios for the confirmations to get long. Okay, so now that we have our resistances, you can trickle down to a lower time frame. Okay, and we look for confirmations. Okay, so or more confluences. So here is an order block. Okay, also it is a support. Previously resistance, we broke out, flipped it to support. So there is confluence to possibly long here. Stop loss below. Okay, doesn't matter how high I drag this profit line, it doesn't really matter. You can take profit at resistances. Okay, so if that was support and this is the order block to get long, resistances, you can go on lower time frame to find if there's no data. I go down on the 1 hour. Let's make them red. Okay, resistance, again, we failed to flip it to support, so there's a little deviation. Came back down, confirmed the resistance, and then we went back down. Breakout, flipped it to support, again, held the support. So if we come back down and we take this as a scalp, that's going to be your first TP. Second TP comes probably around here. Okay, and then third. Now this is all used on the hour. Okay, um, extra confluence you can find. That was a 4 hour order block. Okay, we have a 1 hour demand zone here. Okay, so if you entered there, you could DCA at this 1 hour demand zone, which is support here. Previously resistance, we broke out, flipped it to support, came back down, became an SR, rejected, broke out, flipped it to support. So DCA would be around 29.29. Okay, entry around 29.72ish. Let's make that clean. And then if you wanted a third DCA, which because this is a wide zone, you can have one at the bottom here at the support. You're always going to DCA at support or at resistance if you are shorting. Confirmations are going to be a little bit different. This is a limit order type of trade. Okay, so that's how the play is going to be set up, right? So we found our resistances. We go in a lower time frame. We find more confluence 4 hour long, right? You can also, if you want, draw a trend line to add more confluence here. Okay, so we have the order block, we have the SR, the support, 1 hour demand zone, we have a trend line. If it comes back down here, it should offer some type of bounce, right? You're going to keep playing the trend line until broken. Otherwise, Then it becomes a confirmation type of trade. Lose the trend line, turn it into resistance. Okay, you're going to market short once we close down below, and stop loss will be somewhere above here. I can't give that stop loss yet because it hasn't happened, but that's the type of confirmation. Okay, so it goes from a limit trade. If we go back up, let's say, your DC, if your DCAs fill, let's say your entry fills, DCA1, even DCA2, you're most likely going to want to rearrange the take profit levels, okay? Because now your average entry is going to be here-ish instead of up there. So maybe this becomes your take profit 1, take profit 2, take profit 3. Okay? You have to be able to adjust with the market. If you're leaving TPs to hit and you're not taking profit on, a 2-3% move unleveraged, okay, in a choppy market, especially with the volume that we had yesterday, we're obviously going to have some corrections. As long as we are able to stay above the 30K level, we should continue to gun for higher. I'm looking at 42K. I've mentioned this in my video. So on the next dip, if we get a 30%, 40% dip, you guys should be buying spot. I've been urging, everyone to buy spot, and if you're missing these leverage moves up, at least you have some type of exposure in the market. Whether it's a little bit, it doesn't matter. You're at least making some money. Spot is what's going to make you money. Leverage can make you money, but in the bull run, accumulating spot during the bear market and selling when it's green is where my money was made in the first bull run, or the last bull run that we had. And I really highly explain the advantages to my class of why this is important, and I highly encourage you guys to take advantage of spot if we get a dip. Okay. Now, if you're waiting for $25 SOL, $20 SOL, just buy and DCA. Stop whining. So this is how I would play. Okay, 4-hour order block. We have support, low time frame demand zone on the 1 hour, trickle down. Okay. And then this one here was also a 4-hour support, also 1 hour support. That's where my last DC is going to be. Heavier bits towards the bottom. If we get a pump up, you would have to readjust your TPs if all your DCAs fill, because then your average changes. And then if we break down, you have a confirmation for a short. Higher the time frame, the better. So if this is your 2-hour trend line, for example, we close down below, we go and retest, also has to reject and close below. You mark it short with your stop loss somewhere above there. Okay. And then for high time frames, if we're taking a confirmation trade here, we have this daily high on SOL around 33, like 2-ish, 0.02, right? Confirmation trade for SOL, you are looking for a swing failure, close below, reject, market short with your stop loss above, but then you have to add some extra confluence, okay? Right now, if I were to go to a different SOL chart really quickly, let's do perp. I have confluence of this daily order block. Okay, so not only do I have the highs here for a sweep, but if we are able to sweep into these highs into that order block, take some liquidity and close below, yes, we could get some type of short. We also do have this ascending triangle type of thing. Okay, right? So here is your neckline. This is also, I cover this, if we are able to retest the neckline and hold, we're going higher, right? This neckline over here was another demand zone. So I'm setting bids there. I cover this in the video, but we have a demand zone, stop loss below. Also, it's a retest of this neckline. Okay, if I were to zoom out here, the target of this wedge Okay, gives you that. Once we retest successfully, you set your bids at the demand zone, stop loss below. That is the technical targets of this wedge. Okay. So that is another limit order type of play. It's not a confirmation trade. But for this confluence, take out the highs, close below, daily into the daily order block. You also have this resistance here, right? So I would possibly start laddering bids into this order block. Now, this is a very wide one, okay? So personally, I would enter in a small amount at 34.30ish, okay? I won't DCA. There's two types of ways you could get into this play even further. One, you have your limit bid here, okay? This price comes up, pushes above, takes liquidity into this daily order block. Then we go and create that swing failure, okay? Then you can add more to your position once it's confirmed, and then we just go down. Or you enter in light over here, see how the reaction happens. If we continue to go, like, have another fuck you candle to the upside, then you can take it out for a small loss. We should reject here as well at 37-ish. Now, for those that did not get in lower on Sol spot, it's going to be a risky Sol trade. Okay, if I was taking this, it'd be more or so as a hedge against my spot bags. But into it, we should reject the first time, so a different trade can be taken at resistance here. Okay, this one is more of a confirmation type. You'd only add more if we do swing failure. This one would be a safer option. Reject at resistance. Yes, we might have another wick here to take this liquidity. Okay, so you enter in light. You can have a manual stop loss where we go and take these highs. Okay, and then you can add more once a swing failure happens there. And then hopefully comes back down. But we should have a rejection at this point, right? This is a fuck you candle. Low time frame. These are fuck you candles. Okay. Two types of trades. So the first one, yes, the demand zone at the neckline is going to be around 27.58. Stop loss around 26.16. I'm a swing trader, okay, so my stops are wide. I don't scalp. But risks have to be managed. Swing trades, again, you can lose maximum of 4 to 5% of your portfolio. That should be the max. If you're losing more than that, you need to go to prison. Second one, if you're scalping, 2 to 3% of your portfolio. Okay. One sec. I just gotta. Okay. You can take it. My trades, if I'm giving longs, can be taken on spot or leverage. My spot trades don't have stop losses, they're manual. Obviously, you can't take my shorts on spot. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at now. If we take a look here, we possibly have a bearish divergence forming. Okay. Um, Also a possible 3 drive here. Okay. Now let me get a picture of a 3 drive pattern so you guys see what it is. One sec. know this isn't some ICT lingo bullshit. One sec. Okay. Okay. So we have a channel. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3. Okay, that was a sell. Target should be from the top to the bottom and there. Once breakdown happens, whether it's here, then it goes straight into the demand zone. Whether it happens a little bit more, again, we have Confluence for that target to be sent into our demand zone. Confirmation, again, this was the same confirmation trade that I gave earlier. Right? Break down, retest, straight into it. Okay. Um, this was the same exact trade, kind of, that the confirmation that I gave for BNB. Let me show BNB. Right? Same type of breakout. I mentioned in my video, breakout. Okay, this was the 1, 2nd, 3rd, 4th touch. The more it touches resistance, the weaker it's going to be. Breakout, there was the retest. It held successfully. Okay, and then it went straight into the supply zone. Now, for those that are my students, you know that for supply zones, we have an SR, usually, right? So your setup would have been, now I can place it above this wick. I can place it right here. We had an SR. This was support. We broke down. Okay, this was never retested. The first touch of a resistance or a support after a breakout, okay, it's going to reject or bounce. This so happened here, okay, and you got a nice move down. This was a confirmation play, right? So here's the breakout. We closed above. Retest happened. You could have gone on a lower time frame to gotten the entry, okay? But again, look where we bounced from, right? Here's demand zone. We had a nice move impulse up, came back down, and you got a 2% almost move on BNB. Okay, so now when you're looking for confirmations or more confluences here, right, this is still going to be resistance. This is going to be resistance until proven otherwise. Here is your other resistance line, right? I still expect a rejection from this area. BNB in terms of other altcoins, I expected this giant, move up because everyone was shorting it, but eventually it's going to get weak again. There's only so much that BNB can do. If Bitcoin dies, this will die as well. This will die probably harder, but I expect to reject from here again. If it goes up, it'll form a rejection here, maybe come back down and form a giant inverse head and shoulders. Okay, that should be the start of the bull run if that happens, because if BNB runs, that means Bitcoin's running hard. Okay, um, so I think a short at this confluence level, we have a supply zone, and if you watch my videos, supply zones are valid until that 50% line gets broken. So here, okay. Now you can have a swing trade that goes like this. Okay, this is not a DCA point. This is just the 50% line. So entry there, you can have a DCA maybe up here, right? I zoom out on a higher candle. This is now a giant supply zone. I know we have these wicks. Let's make it a monthly. Nah. So not only do we have a supply zone, we have our SRs or resistance lines. Okay, two confluences. That's all I can currently find, unless we want to draw some fibs. Let's draw it from. I only use the golden pocket and the 786. All right, let's remove these. Okay, now we have extra confluence of the golden pocket. Right, so this tells me that this short's going to be pretty strong. We should reject from this area. So now I have three confluences that this trade setup might be good. Okay, I will take it. Lower position size because the market is pumping. Whenever you are fighting against the trend, it is okay to short, but you should short or long depending on what the trend is with lower size. Whenever you are trading against the trend, trade against it with lower position size. Don't go into it how you normally would. Okay. One sec, let me read some chats. I know there's some questions. Um, the golden pocket is between the 618 and the 66 fib. It's actually the 6.5, but I like the 6.6. Okay, the golden pocket and the 786 fib provide the highest percentage of a reversal. Okay, good example of it is going to be ARB. So whenever we got down to the fib, okay, we had a reversal point, and same with here. Okay. For Sol, what's your difference factor? Tell whether it was a dip or a bounce or a breakdown and retest. What do you mean? So a breakdown retest occurs when candle breaks down, closes below. Next candle, or however many candles, go up and retest the trend line, close below. Okay, and that is a rejection from it, and then you'd short. But you need confluence. Like for example, if this is going to be resistance here, break down, retest of this resistance and trend line, and then died. I'm not looking at CME. CME's a gap. It's a meme. I'll look at USD dominance though. Okay. People that use CME are just, I mean, it's just, there's no reason to use CME. It's, first of all, it's off by like a few $100s. Use your charts if you're looking at CME. It's just a meme chart. I won't get into it deeply. I mentioned this in my class. I'm not looking at other charts right now. I'm just going over my lesson. Any questions on confirmations and confluences? Right, so you start on higher time frame. You plot your support and resistances. Okay, you find any other confluence that you can find. So, for example, for this one, right, we had the order block. Right, it was support or an SR point. Okay, playing a limit order that way. Stop loss below the wicks. Okay, hopefully it wicks it down into here, closes above, and then continues higher. Otherwise, this breaks down, retests, and then you mark it short with your stop loss somewhere above here. I don't know where yet. Okay, and then we have demand zones. This is a 3 drive pattern. The more confluences you can find for your trade thesis, the more comfortable you should be taking it. Okay, if you see a bullish configuration on a higher time frame, say the 4 hour, and you see like a bearish continuation on like the 15 minute, Okay, the 4-hour is going to be stronger than the 15-minute. Okay, how can you check if there's divergence without checking the volume tools? Because I'm good like that. Um, yes, Confluence can be RSI, volume, and order book. Okay, it's whatever you want to use. I don't use any indicators. Um, so my confluences are going to be demand zones, patterns. I do turn on EMAs as well. Okay, so if I turn on the EMAs, and I like to have the 200 EMA. Okay, so for example, if I'm looking at the 1-hour chart, this is obviously going to keep coming up, but it's in line with my demand zone. Okay, 4-hour EMA is much lower. Okay, this should continue grinding up. Excuse me. Okay, but I don't use EMAs often. I only use it for Bitcoin. I do use EMAs for Confluence, but only the 200. Your TP on Sol is 33.6. Why is that short there? My TP on no, don't look at where I draw this line. I can draw it to 100. That doesn't matter. You're going to take profit at resistance levels. Okay? I can draw this like this. That doesn't mean shit. You TP at resistance levels. My first TP on Sol spot hit at 31. My next one's at 37. In this case, change between a long and short depending on the retest of trend line. Yep. If it breaks down and loses the trend, retests the trend line and rejects, then you look for a short. Um, but you need confluence, right? You can't just trade based off a breakdown and a trend line. That's why AR is not here, right? Um, when waiting for a candle to close at a retest, does it matter where the candle closes? Is it a long candle? If it's a long candle and closes too far from the tested price line, do you still go in? Can you rephrase that? How many confluences would you say confirms your trade? I understand. So the more you can find, right? Like if I'm finding 2 or 3 and that's all I can find, great, right? But if I see, 4 bullish confluences and I see 2 or 3 bearish ones, right? I'm still left with one, so they cancel each other out. The more I have of one or the other, the more comfortable I'm going to be in taking. So, however, you have to also consider this isn't what I'm just looking at. I look at Bitcoin dominance, I look at USDT dominance, I look at the dollar, I look at Bitcoin when I'm trading altcoins. Everything comes into a factor. And that's what I teach in my class. The falling wedge usually serves a POI for short. I don't see a falling wedge here. What was your preferred confluences that you use and why? Support resistance is your bread and butter. That's how you should be starting off. And then adding supply demand zones to it. Finding patterns on top of that will give you extra confluence, but don't trade patterns alone. Okay? The golden pocket and the 786 fib is what I use. EMAs. I look for if I have a demand zone, like for example this one here, right? Anything on a lower time frame, if I were to go for example on a 2 hour, what can I find here, right? Like we see this order block here, that could be a great DCA point, right? You DCA at the top of the order block, and then you have at the bottom already you have support. Okay. I use a yeah. I don't trade based off 4-hour closures here and there. Sometimes it may work, but if you had a Bitcoin short like at 32K and you're like, hey, 4 hour closure above, 33.2, right? We went to 36K. Most people would have gotten liquidated because they have terrible risk management skills. So it's better to use a hard stop loss, or you could use a partial stop loss and have the remainder close out at, a 4 hour closure above so and so, and take it from there. But I always use a hard stop loss. On my spot trades, I have no stop loss. There's no liquidation price on spot. Basically saying if it breaks down too far, do you go in? I'd say no. No, I always wait for a confirmation. I never FOMO in. If I miss a green candle up, I wait for the range to form. If that takes a week, so be it. You will never see me market longing anything until it gets to that level to do so. Like for example, okay, here. Here was a trend line. Okay, here was a trend line. This was a demand zone. This is what I gave a few days back, right? So this demand zone. Once we had that nice move up, this was not only a demand zone, but it was also an SR point. Okay, so I have two confluences already with the SR point and the demand zone. Also became the third confluence was the trend line retest. So I have three. Okay, and then we bounce what? 4%, right? Now we continued higher. We broke down. We retested. We closed down below. That was a confirmation for a short. Stop loss probably somewhere above here, right? Very tight, and then you got to move down. Okay, so there's the breakdown, there's the retest. We closed below and then died. What's the reason of yesterday's soul short? Well, it was ill-timed. I didn't expect that news to come out, but I have to see my. I gotta go to my chart really quickly. Bybit. Delete. And we had this move up. Okay. Okay. I should have taken that soul short there, and then we had the move down, but we already had this candle there. Okay. I saw that we were rejecting this, and it looked like it was exhausted. I was hoping for a move back down to this order block here. Okay, I saw that candle. That candle is usually bearish reversal. Now it's a 1 hour candle. Okay, so we had a rejection into the supply zone. I was going to market short, hoping for it to go back there, and then the news came out for BlackRock, and then we just went up. Okay, so I had an SR point, I had a supply zone, I had the candle, and then down. Good question. Okay. Do you use volume profile for Confluence? Nope, not anymore. I like my chart like I like my women naked. So on spot, even the trade is going against you, you don't sell and just hold. Yep. So on spot, I have, a mental stop loss. If we close below a level, like for example on AVAX, some people messaged me and they sold and they panicked for it only to go back up. Okay. So I gave the long call at 933, right? And if we had gone below previous low and closed below, okay, and turned this into resistance, I was manually going to close it out, right? People panic and they see this. This is not a hard stop loss. When I mentioned spot, it's not a hard stop loss. People see this, they're down like 7% because instead of spot they took this leverage. It goes down and it gets rejected, right? Or they're down so much money they close out. So I'm looking for confirmation. This was previous low, close down below, turn to resistance. I will manually get out of my spot position. Examples of confluences. So support, resistance, order blocks, golden pockets, EMAs, liquidity inefficiencies, order flow, market structure shifts, ranges, BOS, Kuchi, trend lines, fundamentals, news, retest and breakout for confirmations. Um, so instead of golden pockets, I just use fibs. I just like the golden pocket for confluence, but fibs would work. Um, I shit on ICT, so um, sure if that works for the ICT folks. Um, RSI, I would use RSI, and I only use RSI for divergences, so definitely RSI would be added on there. I don't use it for anything else. I think that's it for now. I have to come back to that. What I mean is if the price bounces off too hard when retesting a level, it might not make the sense to go in. How do you decide if you take the trade? Do you check? So you can go on a lower time frame. So for example, like Bitcoin, right? This is a 4-hour trade, close below, you enter. Now let's say, it had, let's say this was the trend line, right? And we didn't get a successful retest, and you're saying that this move had already happened, okay? And you're waiting for a retest and it doesn't happen. So what you can do is instead of waiting on a 4-hour closure, I know this is how I trade, but if you are, want a quick scalp, you can go on a lower time frame, or what you can do is you can enter on breakdowns, which I highly don't suggest. But if you're entering on a breakdown, okay, or a breakout, you enter in with a very small position, and then you can add to your position once those confirmations are set. So if we break support and flip it into resistance, so if this was support here, right, when would you add to your position? There. Once we broke support, turned to resistance, you can add to your position. It'll bring your average to about like there, and then you just ride the wave down. Okay, so you can enter in on a lower position size on breakdown or breakouts, but they have a low success rate if you are going on a lower time frame. Okay, and breakdowns and breakouts is why Usman's not here. I can just keep throwing shots, man. Okay, breakdown, retest, close below. Yep. I think it's also pinned in my channel how to trade them. Say someone new to crypto is looking to learn. What are the most basic confluences they might use to find trades? Because some of them might be too complex. I would watch videos. I would watch um, here, crypto cred. This is what I recommend to everyone who's new. He goes over everything. Just look up him on YouTube and watch his stuff. But learn the basics. But before you learn any confluences, learn how to use support and resistance. DCAs are placed at support and resistances depending on if you're short and or long. If you're shorting, you're going to place at resistance levels. If you're long, you're going to place them at support levels. Okay. How do you identify the demand zone, the gap? Understand this isn't the lesson, but curious. There's a 2-hour video on my YouTube. It takes a while to learn, but I also teach it in my classes. So that's for a different lesson. Sorry, I know some of you guys are answering the question. I'm just going in order. Yeah, let's take a look at the Oracle. So the Oracle um, algo and how I trade demand zones are a little bit different. Okay, this is my demand zone. It trades demand zones a little bit different. So right, higher high, perfect short entry. If you had taken it, right, supply zone. Same with here, right? Had the order block straight into it and died. Okay. My definition of a demand zone is different than what the algo provides, but it does its job. It tells you where to long, perfect long entry there and up. Heat maps good for trading alts. Don't know. I don't use heat maps. Um, okay. All right. All right. UN is USD dominance. All right. Let's take a look at USD dominance. This is the only chart that I'm looking because this is not part of the lesson. Okay. So I actually gave the sauce to my students. I said if we lose 7.7, it's an all-in long to my class. But right now, we have created an SFP if we close the daily like this, okay? We have the SFP here as well, okay? And then we went a little bit higher. Same thing here. Now this is all bearish. The weekly bearish as well, okay? Now we may have an SFP on the daily. If we close like this, we should get some type of relief on USDT dominance, meaning it's inversely correlated to crypto. Crypto should continue to go down. But the SFP could probably go to like here, and the weekly can still continue to grind down. Okay? Doesn't mean the weekly is going to close at SFP. We have weekly support over here. We should bounce if we get to the 6.52 level. If we get to the 6.52 level, then I would get out of longs or at least trim. Definitely sell some spot bags, and um, I wouldn't look for shorts, but this is a bounce point for USDT dominance. Okay, but let's see how the daily closes right now. We need to reclaim this level. It was previously support, right? We had a deviation here. If we SFP and deviate here, I can see a move back up to at least 7.19 and then 7.53. Um, but we got to take it level by level. Okay. Difference between order block and fair value gap. I can't go over that. It's not in this lesson. But fair value gap is what the ICT nerds use. Order blocks, everyone has their own definition for them, but brief definition of what I learned. A bearish order block is the last green candle before a directional change in price action. So this is the last green candle before move down and draw it correctly. Usually as a reversal point, we came back, reversed. And a bullish order block is the last red candle before a directional change in price. Okay, so if this was a red candle before a directional change in price, that is the order block. Okay. Oh, I shit on ICT people. I don't care. Yeah, no worries. Okay. Any other questions on today's lesson? So again, start high time frame, plot those support and resistances, look for the confluences, and go from there. I wouldn't short just based on USDT dominance. I know some people do. You have to look at other factors, right? I won't get into it because it's not part of the lesson. I don't want to teach a full class of other stuff. Not necessarily. Um, just if you just see one, like for example, if you're trading based off support only, right? Ask yourself like, is support being touched multiple times? If so, right, if the more support is being touched or the more resistance is being tested, it's going to get weaker, right? Is it the first touch of support? Okay, how is the candle going to close? If you're looking at alts, take a look at Bitcoin. How's Bitcoin doing? Okay, there's a whole bunch of things you have to consider, right? But if you can add anything to your support and resistance, let's say you add whether it's supply demand or you look for a pattern or you look for order blocks, you're trading a bearish divergence or bullish divergence, then anything you can add to strengthen your confluence level, but also your comfortability on that trade and your confidence, then you should take it. Doesn't mean no indicators can be confluences, but it doesn't mean it is confluence. A demand zone and supply zone is confluence. A pattern is a confluence. But yes, the algo can count as a confluence. But again, not shitting on any algos in particular. An algo is an algorithm, right? Still do your due diligence into entering a trade. If a computer tells you to jump off a cliff, are you going to jump off a cliff? Right? Still, you have to outweigh the risks and the rewards for each trade. Exactly. A confluence is anything you can get to enhance your trade setup. A confirmation is whether, for example, a support has, like right here, if we're taking a look at USDT dominance, this is resistance, right? Actually, let's look at a chart. Okay. This line here is resistance. We have not flipped anything into support. We rejected. Yes, we had candles above, but we did not close above, retest, and hold for higher on any of these. Okay? Here is the breakout. Here's the retest. That is your confirmation to long. And if you had done so, you got a 7% move. Okay? Again, once that confirmation happens, this then becomes support, right? We're bouncing from support. When we go up and lose it, this becomes an SR. We have confirmed the resistance. That is a trigger to short. Here's again, the same exact line, breakout, right? We closed above. There's the retest. There's your confirmation to long. Yep. USDT dominance is inversely correlated to crypto. For SR trend retest, you don't take in consideration the consolidation after the breakdown before the retest. Um, like this. So this was the breakout, right? Here's the support retest, confirmation to long, breakdown. Okay, we closed below. A lot happening here. We closed below, right? We turned this into resistance, confirmation to short, breakout, flipped it to support, confirmation to long, broke down, became SR, confirmation to short. This is all resistance still. We have not flipped it to support. This is still resistance. You're going to short resistance until broken. Okay, but look, here is where um, confluences can come and be counterintuitive, I guess, right? So you have resistance here, okay? You're shorting resistance. You have a cup and handle and a falling wedge. And I mentioned this in my channel that we were going to get a cup and handle forming. Okay. You can call this an inverse head and shoulders too, sure. Okay. You have breakdown 1, 2, let's just say 4, 5, 6, 6 touches of resistance. Okay. But it's still, that's your bearish thesis, right? The more touches of resistance, the weaker it's going to be. Okay. Now you have cup and handle. Okay. You have a falling wedge. Okay. You have two confluences to possibly long this. Okay. Now, breakout and retest is how you trade. Breakout, retest. Perfect long trigger. That is exactly where I called my long on spot, and then we ran 33%. I got my confirmation on that daily closure that we retested it, and I mark it longed on spot, and there we go. Okay. You have 6 touches of resistance. The more touches, the weaker it's going to be. I have 2 confluences that go against that. Like this daily order block was already violated multiple times. Okay? So, not valid. And there's your cup of tea. Was it fibs? Where'd you draw your fibs? Let me see. Did you draw it from... Where'd you draw it from? Here? Oh, you... Okay. What am I doing? I'm drawing bearish fibs. One sec. One sec. Well, a great entry would actually be the supply zone. It's going to be at the 6-1 fib. How did you draw your fibs? Can you share a full screen? I took it from that low to that high. This is a different fib. I drew this one from here to there. This one from this low to that high. It's right at that demand zone. One, two. Okay. Yeah, the reversal was right at the fib. Okay. I mean, after a breakdown from a level, some people like to wait for price consolidation before retesting. No, I don't wait for price for consolidation. If I see consolidation under resistance, right? Um, like this had already broken above. But if we are going to, let's say we're working here, we go reject, come back down, reject, come back down, and then we just consolidate here, right? It leads me to think that we're going to break out. This usually is like a bull flag. But if we're breaking down, right, bouncing from support, and then we consolidate under resistance, just like we did here, it's usually a reversal to the downside. So in this example, after the final break of the resistance where the candle handle ends, you have a very tall candle above the red line. Let me remove some of these Michelangelo-esque type drawings. Okay, let's draw this back on. After the final break of the resistance, you talking about this one? Okay, see, one sec. Okay, there's the breakout. I actually drew it. Yeah, there's the resistance line. Okay, there's the breakout. We closed above. This retest happened, and we closed above. Okay, I went on a lower time frame. So here's the 4 hour. I took this into consideration. Yes, the daily closed above, but here's the 4 hour. The 4 hour was also bull flagging. Okay, breakout. Here's a retest of that too. So if you were taking this trade based on the retest here, you would have market longed right there. Now this one broke out, flipped it to support. I market long right there. What if we smash past support and resistance? Well, you can only smash past through one, but it's going to be a breakout, just like it did here. Yep. Same thing here, right? Breakout, retest. That's your trigger to long. Stop loss somewhere there. Doesn't mean, I mean, retests should happen, but they could take a while to play. My trading style requires patience. I could wait, I could not call anything and wait for my setups for a week or 2 months and I'll be happy. I wait until price comes to my level. I don't chase the market, they chase me. Doesn't mean it hits stop loss. No, that's a confirmation trade. So if I'm waiting for the retest, then I'm waiting for the retest. I don't have a short or long setup. All right, guys. I gotta head out. I'm gonna stop recording here.